Welcome to the Spotlight on Marketing, brought to you by Lloyd, headhunters in the B2B marketing space. I'm your host, Karen Lloyd, and today I am joined by Kyle Byers, Director of Growth Marketing at SEMrush. Kyle is a leading voice on winning in the age of AI with integrated marketing strategies. Today, we're going to talk about the fascinating shift happening right now as AI disrupts traditional search and attribution models. So if you're struggling with attribution in a world and wondering how to adapt when traditional SEO metrics are becoming less relevant, or you're feeling overwhelmed by the challenges happening in search right now, this one is for you. So welcome, Carl.
Thanks so much, Karen. It's great to be here.
No, thank you. So over the last few years, I just can't believe how much AI has just stormed into everyday life as well as business. What are you seeing and how does this impact your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really an exciting time, probably the most exciting time there's ever been to be in business and to be a marketer especially. We're seeing this in a lot of different places. So from consumer behavior regarding how people do their research now when they're looking for a solution to their problem or if they're looking for a product to purchase. A lot of the research now is happening across AI platforms. And that's not just dedicated ones like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, but also Google. So much of Google now is dominated by AI-driven results, AI overviews. There's also Google AI mode now. So these different factors are really impacting the way that potential customers, both B2B and B2C, interact with your brand and learn about you and make decisions.
Completely. And I mean, obviously you're working for SEMrush who specialise in SEO. So it's had probably an impact even more so for your businesses.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see. We've been, of course, making many adjustments when it comes to our products to ensure that we're really addressing this new need in the marketplace that didn't exist only a year or a year and a half ago. So providing the kinds of tools that people need, which we can get into more a bit later as well, as they are adjusting. So we actually get to see it from both perspectives, or all three perhaps. The first one being what I just mentioned as potential customers and consumers ourselves. The second one being when we are making our strategic adjustments for how we acquire customers, how are we adjusting things in the light of this new era? And then the third is our own customers, because they're making those same adjustments. How do we serve them better with our tools to ensure that they're able to show up where people are now looking? Again, whether that's AI overviews, AI mode, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, etc. And so those are things that we've been making very strong adjustments in order to make sure that we're doing what we need to show up and also help our customers do the same.
Yeah, okay. And so if anyone hasn't done anything yet, they haven't adapted anything in the last few years, they've just stuck with that traditional attribution, how would they be affected, would you say, currently?
Sure. So one thing that we're seeing is traditional SEO, for example, has been pretty strongly impacted over the past, again, year or so, especially. And that's been true across multiple geographies, not just in one place. And so what that effectively means is people and businesses who used to get a lot of traffic tracked from Google, now they may be more likely, what we've seen is the great decoupling, right? Where your impressions, you used to be the case with traditional SEO, that your visibility, as the visibility went up, your rankings went up, your traffic also went up at the same time. Now, instead, there's actually been a decoupling where your impressions can go up and up while your clicks, your traffic that's tracked actually may go down. And that's because of the new zero-click landscape where Google is actually serving those answers right there at the top of the search results so frequently now, the AI overviews, that people don't need to click through as often. However, the flip side of that is that brands are getting a lot more visibility now than they perhaps used to in some cases. So you may actually see that you're getting a lot more brand value coming out of the impressions, even though it doesn't translate into clicks directly. And that creates, you just alluded to it, a bit of an attribution issue. You no longer know for sure where somebody discovered you. I mean, you never knew for certain, but when it came to search funnels, you typically had a much clearer journey, a much clearer path to conversion and the attribution behind that. because so much of it took place after the click. Now, a lot of that journey actually takes place long before they click over to your website. So as an example, someone is searching for, an insurance product, so something, let's say car insurance. Well, when they first type in a query around car insurance, best car insurance for college students, perhaps university students, they may see a brand that they've never seen before show up in an AI overview. And they don't click through that brand, though. They then make the next search and they say, okay, let me compare this brand. Let's say it's an upstart like Lemonade, which sells insurance. How does Lemonade compare to State Farm or Allstate or a larger insurance company, Geico? And then they do this kind of research, whether that's on Google or on ChatGPT. They can have these long AI-based conversations and go back and forth and make these comparisons to competitors, spec out pricing even with ChatGPT. Okay, give me a table of the likely pricing options with these different variables of coverage, and do all this research before ever even entering the sphere of attribution or any visibility whatsoever that those companies have over what they're doing. And by the time they actually click through, the link may not have refer attached to it. And so they may not even see that it came from ChatGPT. But best case scenario, they do see that it comes from ChatGPT, and they still don't know exactly what prompts the people were querying, what they were typing in. They don't know exactly necessarily even what content helped ChatGPT come up with those answers in the first place. So what investments is that business making that's actually driving those outcomes? We found internally with our own study that the conversion rate of those visitors from ChatGPT to the given website is actually much, much higher than an average traditional SEO visitor. It's 4.4 times higher. That's incredible. And the reason for that is because those customers are so warmed up by the time they reach your site, they've already done a lot of research. You are no longer starting with someone at the very top of the funnel, but they're more toward the middle or even bottom by the time they reach you. But still, that attribution piece is a big question. How do we understand better the way that our investments are actually driving these outcomes? And we've been working on tools to make that much easier with SEMrush.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. And, it actually makes complete sense because that's exactly how you just described what I would do when I'm looking for something, I'm researching something. That's exactly what I do. I tend to use Google for basic things, about my life, and it comes up in barred at the top. And then okay. And then I click into that bit or look around it, or I go to ChatGPT. So yeah, you're absolutely right. For lots of things, actually, not just, for work and my personal life. It's something that I do. So it's a massive crossover. So I think you've explained that really well. But so what it is meaning that the obsession that we've had about keywords for the last, everybody having keywords, or, I know one company, their CEO brought marketing in and they sat them down and they said, right, you're not on the top 3 in Google anymore. You failed as a marketing team, which was probably a little bit extreme. But would you say that kind of conversation is potentially redundant now, that people don't need to be top 3 on Google anymore?
Well, it is interesting. The requirement to be in the top 3 for a given single head term or high volume, very popular keyword on Google, it is probably less important now for the most part than it may have been in the past, because you have this splitting of so many other channels through which someone can reach you. Not just now there's also ChatGPT and Perplexity, but also people are using much more detailed, longer tail queries. So if you think about a keyword, well, a keyword might only be 2 or 3 actual words, best insurance, best car insurance, or something like that, right? But if you were to think about it instead as a prompt, which is more and more what people are using to search even on Google, then that's going to be a much longer phrase, such as the best car insurance for a disabled university student at 20 years old in X city, right? Something like that is much more common. And then it's not even just that first prompt. It's also the follow-up questions and information. And all of these things end up creating a very customized, plus also the history of the person. Google has a lot of information on that. ChatGPT does as well. These things all customize those responses. And you end up with a much more personalized experience, which means there's a lot more opportunity for perhaps more players to be inserted into these touch points. It's no longer necessarily a winner takes all situation where for so long we had this power law where the vast majority of clicks were going to those top 3 slots on Google. Now, there's no such thing really as a single keyword that you can rank number 1 for, because the ranking is going to depend across so many different parts of the population, individual users. The single keyword is not going to be used as often because they're using these much longer prompt type keywords or indeed full conversations. These things mean there's not so much concentration in that one specific place that you could win or lose. On the other hand, we have also seen through additional studies that there is correlation between how well someone or a business, a website ranks traditionally and how visible they are in AI search. So we actually conducted another study through Backlinko, one of our properties, just a very rapid study to see whether ChatGPT is secretly relying on Google results to run its own basically rankings and indexing especially. And this was something that we verified after some other users had already posted about it on LinkedIn, but we wanted to run our own quick internal study. And we basically published a page on the Backlinko website that we own and set it up so that the robots.txt was not allowing anyone to crawl it except for Google. And Google ended up indexing the page as it was supposed to, but then very rapidly, ChatGPT also started showing it in its results. And that told us ChatGPT is likely relying on Google for powering some of its results as well, which means the more you can optimize for Google traditionally, in some cases, you may also do better in AI search. So there's still kind of this interesting trade-off here. The ability to say Google doesn't matter anymore, traditional SEO doesn't matter anymore. We're really not there yet.
No, that's really interesting. I think from what you're saying is that keywords still matter, but basically it's not just a couple of keywords now. It's more of a longer thing. It's almost like a bigger ocean of things, which do you think is easier, or would you think that's harder? You think it was easier just to have a couple of keywords, or, it's harder to serve the long tail conversation?
I think for some companies, it's much harder. And for other companies, it may actually be a strength. And something that I keep coming back to in my conversations with leaders on this is it is now more important than ever to really understand your customers. We have, as an industry, we've been data driven for so long, which has been a very good thing. We've been able to see how much search volume there is for a given keyword. We've been able to understand the average click-through rates for those. We've been able to track our attribution back to how people click on these ads and understand very well what's driving value and what's not. But what I just highlighted of people having these long conversations and going through so much of the journey now off-site gives us so little visibility into those things. And we also don't yet have any visibility into prompt volume. So keyword search volume is something we can estimate. Prompt search volume, we do not really have any great data around this. For now, the best we can do is estimate it based on similar keywords, but we don't know exactly how many times people search for a given prompt. And again, there's so many more unique ones as well. So that means that we can't just rely on data anymore. We can't just say there are this many searches for this prompt, so we should go after it and we can attribute it and prove that it drives value. Instead, we need to really get inside the minds of our customers and understand really like what are those jobs to be done that they care about the most? What are the pain points that they have? What are the opportunities that they're seeing or not seeing that we can surface for them? What are those ways that we can reach them, because we understand so well what their situation is and what they need that regardless of the exact framing of the prompt, we're quite certain that we are scratching the itch and being helpful in certain ways with our content and our products, that eventually they're going to search for those things within our universe of expertise and the universe of content we've been creating and sharing, that they will end up in our funnel and we'll be able to prove to them, whether they come to our website or not, that we offer the solutions that they need. And so that's a much more qualitative approach that really kind of harkens back to, broadcast TV era, back when we didn't have nearly as much information outside of general demographics, needing to really understand our customer in a human way as opposed to being solely data driven. Data is still important, but there's not as much of it that we can rely on now, which creates this opportunity and challenge.
So if a CEO for a B2B business and the marketing team go to them and they're saying, oh, we want to cut the content, or they want to cut the content on their website, that would be the worst thing you could probably do right now. So, you're saying that, white papers, blogs, sort of content that are long and, not just keyword heavy that are kind of grabby, but actually have value to the customer are probably the way forward if you want to improve your SEO in the future.
Absolutely. Great question. The ability to inform these LLMs and the retrieval mechanisms as well, the RAG, with your content and your data is so crucial and so valuable, both to them and to us as company leaders. So, for example, what you said, white papers are great, especially, assuming that they're not fully gated, or perhaps if you want to gate them and require someone to become a lead before they see it. Perhaps you can take your older white papers and make those public, make those indexable so that LLM crawlers can access them. Same with blog posts, making sure that you're putting out high quality information in those that is consistent with your brand values and is not going to confuse the LLMs because maybe you're speaking in a negative way about a competitor instead of a positive way about yourself. They can get a little bit tripped up by those kinds of things. Additionally, showing true thought leadership or unique takes or unique data, especially if you can create your own studies using proprietary data, that can be very, very valuable. LLMs are very hungry for that and really like to cite those sources, which can be a really valuable way to get in there as well. And then it's also not just about your own website, it's about offsite as well. So Reddit and Quora especially are two of the most cited sources in AI search, and making sure that your brand is showing up in those places the way that you want it to, making sure that you're being specifically active there, both in a reactive way when customers or potential customers talk about you, but also in a proactive way, posting about your own information on those platforms. So Reddit, Quora, LinkedIn, YouTube, these places are all very important to show up more and more as well. So it's this overarching strategy that's not just a blog anymore or white papers. It's overall content strategy to inform these things.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fascinating, actually. I feel like I'm learning so much. Just in case someone isn't technical, could you just explain what an LLM is?
Sure. LLM stands for large language model, and it's an AI-based method for creating all this value that we're talking about effectively. When we're talking about AI search, there are two primary components to that. There's LLM, which is basically going to be the little bit more static information that you get. If you make a search in ChatGPT right now, by default, the AI search capability is not always on. It'll be used instead when it believes that it's needed. Essentially, if it believes that it deserves and requires a more fresh response. For example, ChatGPT, I believe the training data cutoff for even GPT-5 that came out very recently, I think the training data cutoff for that was something like October 2024. So that's true for the LLM component itself. The LLM component is trained on this gigantic corpus of data across the internet, all the internet essentially, and more. And but it has a cutoff date of, like I said, I think it's something like October or November of last year. So anything since then, it doesn't actually know. However, for anything more recent, it can do what's called retrieval augmented generation. That's RAG. And that's where it actually goes out to the live internet or other sources that you can provide, and it grabs information from those sources. Then it combines that with what it already knows and gives you an answer. And so that's when we talk about AI search. It's kind of the combination of those two things. And you have the opportunity to influence both as a company. What's going to make differences sooner is going to be on the RAG side when the actual search functionality is enabled. But you can also influence the overall training data for the LLM over time because these models do get updated on a more than annual basis.
One thing that interests me is that Google, to start with, obviously Google was just Google, and then eventually they built all these products around it so we could analyze and look at it and know so much, and they built their whole product area around it. Do you think that ChatGPT might do that in the future? And if so, is SEMrush facilitating any of that product area?
Great question. I definitely think that ChatGPT is going to roll out some kind of analytics, perhaps not a standalone analytics product, but certainly some additional insights into the value that businesses can get from ChatGPT as they roll out ad supported versions. So I just posted about this on LinkedIn recently, but I believe that ChatGPT is going to be the most powerful paid acquisition channel that ever existed. And it's because of the reasons that we were just talking about. It's because of all the information that ChatGPT has about its users. If when you're using it and it says, okay, add it to memory, and you can even help tell it what you want it to remember about you, and it's got all your information from previous chats that it'll pull in from. These things are extremely valuable. And it's not just that they have that kind of raw data, it's also that they have this built up trust with you, almost like a human being. When you're speaking with GPT-5, you can feel like you're talking to a person. And actually, one of the most common use cases of ChatGPT is as a therapist or for general personal advice. People talk about their financial issues. People talk about their relationship issues, their marriages, their careers, all these things with ChatGPT. Google has a tremendous, ridiculous amount of data, probably more than any other company ever. But do people have conversations with Google about their marriages and about their finances, all intertwined with the way that their self-belief and their all these things, their philosophy and religion? I don't think so, not to the degree that you do with ChatGPT. So from a marketing perspective, that creates a really amazing potential channel and tool for paid acquisition where you're not targeting just based on geography, demographics, keyword, etc., even though those things themselves are also very powerful. But you can get into so much more detail regarding who you're trying to go after. And a lot of that will likely be kind of subsumed into the AI layer where ChatGPT or OpenAI is making these decisions for you. But at the same time, there's a lot of additional visibility and insight that they will need to provide to their customers, the companies that want to do marketing across their channel in order to get that kind of buy-in, that kind of ad spend. So I think it's going to come from that perspective when we see more analytics insights into what people are requesting from ChatGPT or what kinds of users there are. I think it'll be from that perspective of helping companies with their paid advertising targeting on that platform once it rolls out. That's what I would anticipate. Now, from the SEMrush side, we are certainly working hard to provide those kinds of insights as a third party that you cannot get currently from ChatGPT directly. So we have two primary tools that are really valuable for this. One of them is the AI SEO toolkit, and one of them is Enterprise AI Optimization or Enterprise AIO. And what these tools allow is for you to understand your brand's visibility, your share of voice versus your competitors, and what's driving those things and across which prompts. So understanding, again, it comes back to this question of attribution and also what your investments are doing for you in the AI search space. So knowing, yes, the investments that I was making in blog are no longer driving as much traditional SEO value, but now it's because of the blog that we're showing up in all these places across ChatGPT when we're cited there. And so we are providing tools to allow businesses to understand that better and also actually optimize what they're doing for better results.
Brilliant. And are the tools available for everybody? You don't have to be a SEMrush customer. Could you just take one of those tools?
That's right. You can sign up for the AI SEO toolkit as a standalone product. We also have some functionality for AI optimization built into the core SEO product as well for AI overviews, especially. But AI SEO toolkit is more powerful and more specific when it comes to AI search. And then for larger businesses at the enterprise level, that's where we have Enterprise AIO, which is our most premium flagship version of that.
Perfect. So if you were having a coffee with a CMO tomorrow or CEO, what would you want them to know about this topic?
Many of the things we just discussed, but zooming out a bit, I think the most crucial part is that understanding of your customers, that understanding of as ChatGPT is filling the void for a lot of folks in a very personal way. How do you make sure that your brand is a part of that where it's relevant? How do you make sure that ChatGPT is one of your best salespeople? Because it could be. It really could be. And the way you do that is understanding your customers better and making sure that the information that's out there about your brand, again, whether that's on your website or on other owned properties of yours or externally on social media, YouTube, et cetera, like we talked about, making sure that you're covered well in those places and it's clear and it's concise and it's all cohesive with your overall brand narrative and your unique selling propositions for your products. Doing that in a way that connects with your understanding of your customers is how you can win in this new environment.
Brilliant. And if you're looking at an old analytics tool and there's one page you think, oh, we used to perform really well on that page and that seemed to be a great converter, no one's clicking on it anymore. It doesn't mean that that page is useless because the attribution model has changed.
That's right. That's right. The value that you used to see come through specifically from, let's say, organic search and be attributed as such may now show up as direct because people are coming from having these long conversations in ChatGPT and coming directly to your website or clicking a link that's not passing referrer data and then converting. And so you may see a lot of folks are seeing a change in the attribution from some channels to direct or to unknown or to brand search that perhaps previously would have been different.
Absolutely fascinating. It's just exciting to see how it's all going to change in the next few years. No one would have dreamed with the change we've been through in the last 2 years. I mean, when someone first said to me ChatGPT, I had no idea what they were even talking about. And then like within 3 months, everybody was talking about ChatGPT and I had a go. And then once I started using it, it is addictive. And I must say, the funniest thing I've ever heard anyone search on ChatGPT was someone told me once they searched, has my dead dog gone to heaven? And apparently ChatGPT said yes. And then she said, are you just saying that to comfort me? And ChatGPT replied, yes, I am. And I just thought that was just like a really funny thing because you'd never have Googled that, would you? You'd never, ever have Googled that because it's the difference between Google, you were expecting it to point you somewhere, whereas ChatGPT, you're expecting it to give you advice like a friend. Yes. And that's been the big game changer, I suppose. There is one question I would like to ask is how do you think this will change the structure of a marketing team in the future?
I think a lot more cross-functional collaboration, both within marketing and also within other departments. So working much more closely with product, working much more closely with customer success, voice of customer, any insights there, speaking with your customers more frequently if it's not something that you already do as a business, and ensuring that everyone's on the same page regarding those things. Operating in silos is really just not going to work as well. That's already been true, but it's even more true now with how important it is to be close to your customer. Sales team, of course, if you have a sales-led motion, is another great one. Within marketing, similarly, there's more cross-functionality required here, cross-channel distribution, where you don't have a social media team and an SEO team and a brand team, et cetera, paid acquisition team, but rather perhaps you still have those teams, but the walls are not so strong anymore. You're really collaborating on overall vision for how we're going to capture this customer set and how we can make sure that our messaging is consistent across those different touch points in such a way that it both resonates with customers and is clear and not confusing to LLMs, to make sure that those responses that they get when they search for prompts related to your field show up with the clear messaging that you intended.
And do you think any jobs will be made redundant or any new jobs will appear?
I'm sure both. Anytime we have a dramatic shift in technology that happens, and this is probably the most dramatic shift in technology that we've seen since the internet and mobile phones, and it's perhaps going to be bigger than that. So yeah, I think likely there will be some redundancies as well as certainly more opportunities created.
Brilliant stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
So thank you so much for your time and insight. So thank you for listening as well. I hope you've enjoyed how we've dived into how AI is breaking traditional attribution models, the future of search visibility in the AI world, and also the strategic view of how you should be moving forward with your marketing team from Carl's vision. I'm really lucky to be a podcast host, and I get to speak to brilliant marketers like Carl on a regular basis. As a passionate marketer myself, I'm also a headhunter and the managing director of Armstrong Lloyd sales and marketing firm. So if you're looking to grow your team and you'd like a conversation of what the current market looks like, please drop me an email at karen@armstronglloyd.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you. But until then, keep listening and shining the light on marketing.